back for our second half of the menu for wineweirdos.com.
Yeah, Joe and Chris, we recently had a chance to go to the Fat Duck in Bray, England, and we're kind of here. You guys checked out the first part already, and we've moved on to what I'd consider to be the main courses of
It was pretty much, yeah, we hit the main
proteins.
Yeah, right.
And this was the most memorable, interesting dish to me, and it's also maybe one of the most talked about from the Fat Duck, which is the salmon poached in licorice.
Right. Artichokes, vanilla mayonnaise, golden trout roe, and mani olive oil.
It was almost like the licorice coating was a bit of a harder exterior, and it was like almost like gummy to get through. It took a little bit of like work to get through, but then the salmon underneath was just the most like pristinely, lightly cooked salmon.
That was absolutely perfect.
And I mean, the combination of the licorice with the salmon and then that the golden trout roe on top, as you guys can see in the photo, and then you kind of rubbed it all in the vanilla. What did you call it? The vanilla mayonnaise?
It was vanilla mayonnaise.
And it was just created quite like a almost dessert-like dish that had a lot of sweetness to it with the vanilla and the licorice. But obviously, like the salmon just standing out as, I mean, just this fresh, delicious salmon that was so good. And yeah, this was probably my favorite dish. Although I think the Mad Hatter soup that we talked about, the mock turtle soup that we talked about last time was also quite good.
Then we moved on to the powdered
Anjou.
Yeah,
the Anjou pigeon.
Anjou pigeon.
Which was probably the main course.
Yep.
You know, when they went with a fowl, which was a little interesting. You know, I kind of thought we were going to have some sort of like steak or meat, you know, and ended up having a pigeon, which I wasn't really. This to me wasn't my favorite dish, and the only thing I didn't like about it was the fact that, like, I don't know, it's hard to eat things with bones in them.
I agree with you. Out of all the dishes, it was my least.
Right, it was the least memorable for me for some reason.
The pigeon was a little gamey.
It was pretty tasty. I mean, the thing is, like, I almost feel like, you know, it was like chickeny, you know, and it's like, I don't know, I don't really perceive that as like something I'm really looking forward to at any time. I remember I don't know, it was a confit something or other that was like almost a cracker type texture on top with a foam on it.
Confit of umbles and blood pudding.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought all the sides that went with this dish were quite delicious, and probably the thing I most remember about this dish was that the 2002 La Dome Bordeaux that this was paired with, this French Bordeaux, Saint Emilion. Yep. This was another just delicious wine. I mean, it was a treat for me to get to have some great Bordeaux, and you know, it really paired well, and I mean, it really would have paired well with any protein because the Bordeaux was just a standout of this. This and the Hungarian wine were definitely the two most memorable wines for me. So then we moved on from the savory courses to the sweeter side of things.
Yes, they had like a series of desserts, basically.
Oh yeah. We started with this tart.
Yeah, taffy tart,
caramelized apple,
fennel, rose, and candied lemon.
Yeah, I remember the rose most particularly, just because it was like a candied rose petal.
Yes.
And obviously, like, anybody's like, I don't know, maybe not anybody, but I've had like the essence of a rose like put into like maybe like a cocktail before, or like a place where like they kind of have that as like a flavoring of things. But this was like a thick like rose petal that was quite tasty and was caramel sugar coated and you know caramelized into a way that was like quite edible and was a great dessert pairing. And then we had this tart which was really good and tasty and it was fresh, a lot of fruits, and yeah, that was.
Now came the most like interesting kind of semi-secretive dish, because remember we had this experience. It's called the Not So Full English Breakfast, which first started with just cereal. Remember they actually put a box of cereal and we put it in.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it was parsnip cereal.
Parsnip cereal, right?
And then that's when they moved on and we went back to the liquid nitrogen, nitro scrambled egg and bacon ice cream.
Yeah, this is one of Heston Blumenthal's signature dishes, is the nitro scrambled egg and bacon.
Now, it was really interesting to me, it's just like a random side note, that he actually showed up with half a dozen of eggs in like a cart, opened them up, and then cracked them into the liquid nitrogen bowl, poured the liquid nitrogen, and then
But you noticed something. You noticed something pretty fascinating about it, which was that like you never really got a real good close look at the eggs, right?
At the egg of what was actually going on. I mean, it looked like a real egg cracked, opened into the bowl, and then it's funny because like I didn't ask him, but others did. And I noticed after we had that dish, others would be like, hey, can I see that egg? And he'd be like,
The egg's gone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and what
no,
came
no,
out, what came out wasn't necessarily an egg so much as it was an ice cream.
Yeah, it was like a liquid that he nitro froze into a whipped ice cream, which became the bacon.
So who
ice
knows
cream.
exactly what goes into the ingredients there, but
they were very cautious about letting people see the egg.
And the bacon thing that you guys can see in the photo, I mean, it really was fairly bacony.
It was,
and
but that's like a sugar.
Right, it's like exactly. It wasn't like real bacon, but it was like
it's like bacon candy.
Right, exactly. I mean, I've had it a couple other places too, where they called it like a bacon bark. I've had it with chocolate and whatnot, but like this was definitely again in that same vein. And yeah, this was the most interesting dessert to me. It was definitely the most really fun kind of presentation.
It was,
and you guys can just see like the picture, like egg, bacon, and toast basically here, even though it's turned into a dessert.
Yes.
And it was quite tasty.
It was amazing.
Then we were almost done at this point.
Almost
we
done.
got a couple special little treats here.
Yep. And they showed up with a basically a picture frame and stuck it in front of us, and what was called whiskey gums.
Right.
And it was literally maps of different areas of the world, and you had to. And they suggested eat them in order, A, B, C, D, and E, I believe.
Right, it was like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It was England, Scotland, and then like
Tennessee.
America, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like Tennessee,
Yep.
and it was like whiskeys from all over the
Yes.
world. A few locations that are famous for producing whiskey. You know, a Glenlivet, an Oban, Highland Park, a Lafarge, and a Jack Daniels
to finish, actually.
And I mean, this was really good. This was
very
really
interesting.
cool. I mean, it was like
Whiskey gummy
gummified into the gummy
Not
texture.
sweet, though.
And you could definitely taste the various whiskeys.
Yeah.
And you know, if you like
You
whiskey
just
like
kinda-
I do, it was quite tasty.
And you ate them in the order they suggested, and yeah, it was quite amazing.
Right, and you really got a sense of like being able to compare and contrast the various
that was the
flavors,
whole-
which was pretty cool.
And then it ended with the bag of like
Candy.
what they called Sweet Shop,
Right,
which
we got
had a
bag of
bunch of
candy.
different treats inside it.
It's worth mentioning that right before this dish, we also had a tea course where we had a
yes, we
menu.
got tea.
We had a menu of 3 pages of teas
that's
from
actually-
all over the world,
right.
Including like I don't remember exactly like a 75-pound like special green tea from somewhere in China that was like each pearl of the tea was crafted. You know, it's like a $150 glass of tea. Unfortunately, again, I didn't quite get to that one, but I did have a great green tea there, a great green dragon tea that was one of my favorites, and I think you had a chamomile if I remember.
I did
right.
have chamomile. Yeah.
Poor sick Joe had to have a chamomile, but it was
But
good.
it was fabulous.
Yeah, we had some great tea. It was like
amazing.
and really cool, like a
the
horrible,
display itself, like
again, it was
these
another
wooden
presentation
boxes
sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that was fun, and then we had our sweets to conclude things. And you were such a good guy. You even brought one of yours home for your wife.
Well, yeah, they had
where I ate all mine.
Yeah. What is that?
There was like a chocolate and jelly.
Yep.
There was one that was like in
Coconut.
in a wrapper,
Baki.
but the wrapper
Yeah,
was
it was like it looked like a chewing
mouth.
tobacco. Well, you see in the photo, it looked like chewing. It was coconut baki.
Right, and it looked like a taffy or whatever, and then like, but it was wrapped in foil. But you just put the whole thing in your mouth. The foil dissolved.
Yes.
And then there was the whatever, it wasn't really taffy, and it was smelled like tobacco and quite tasty.
Apple pie caramel, and the last one was called the Queen of Hearts. She made some tarts, and it was actually a
very precise, artistic sort of.
Yes, it looked like literally a Queen of Hearts, but it was a
for the
raspberry
deck of cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was thin, and it was like
Very thin.
everything was detailed intricately on this thing, and you guys can just see that it's in this wrapper here at the bottom. You can't quite see, but yeah, and, you know, Joe took his home.
I actually took my home and
ate
gave it to my wife for her Valentine's Day. Actually,
Such a nice
yeah,
guy.
see? So.
And with that, we had to pay our bill and away into the night. But we had quite a great trip to London and quite a great trip to Bray, England.
If you get to London, just take the train west, 40 minutes to Bray.
Oh, I should tell them, to get the reservation, I had to call exactly 2 months before. They open the reservation book exactly 2 months before, and then you can call and get the reservations, first come, first serve. But if you call to the day 2 months before, and you even get your time right in the hours, and you call them at whatever time's reasonable, you'll get your reservation.
And the train runs late enough. If you get to London, you can get to the Fat Duck pretty easily.
Yeah, so it worked out fine for us, and we had a great meal, a very memorable experience.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And yeah, good times.
All right.
Thanks for joining me, Joe, and hope you guys all enjoyed the trip report and all the photos, and maybe you guys will get to check it out sometime.
Yep.
For WineWeirdos.com, it's Chris and Joe.